All right, behind the engaging, down-to-earth cook we see on our book covers and at television screens is a visionary, and let me underline the word visionary, businesswoman who understands the value of a multimedia strategy to create a personality-led brand that is broader, way broader than just a collection of recipes. Always entrepreneurial, Annabel Langbein chose to self-publish her first book of recipes. That was back in 1988, and through innovation and through hard work, she has built one of New Zealand's most successful publishing houses and become a household name, not just here, but right around the world. She's written 19 cookbooks, which have won numerous awards, been translated into several languages and sold more than 2 million copies in Europe, North America, and Australasia. Her award-winning television series, Annabel Langbein, The Free-Range Cook, is screened in 84 countries, and believe me, that is not easy to do. And she's garnered a huge international following. She's also going to pick up another gong this evening. She's the winner of the World Class New Zealand Awards Creative Award, so she picks that up this evening. Please welcome Annabel Langbein.
Well, thank you first, Susan, for such a sterling introduction. I'm very honoured and humbled to be here. I'd like to extend a huge thank you to New Zealand Trade and Enterprise, and also to Kia, who are their affiliate organisation, with whom I've been on the road this week with some really, really inspiring New Zealanders. And what I thought I'd like to do today was to take you through a little bit of my journey to date, some of the lessons I've learnt, and actually I feel like I'm just starting, and that really is a fantastic feeling. I feel like I'm just at the start gate, and I think it really is New Zealand's time. So before I start fully, I thought I'd like to show you a little clip from my latest television series and tell you a wee bit about what it was I was trying to achieve here, apart from just showing people how easy it is to cook good food. So this is based down in central Otago, where I spend as much time as I can as possible, and my husband found a piece of land on the side of Lake Wanaka, which I berated him for about 4 months because it was a bog, but now I realise I can garden there. And I love to garden. I actually went to Lincoln. I studied gardening. I never studied cooking. And for those of you who don't know me, I always have had in the past a very outdoorsy life. I actually met my husband when I was poaching on his farm. He never saw me. I was up a tree. One of the things about this really beautiful place, this is where we film our series, this is where we've lived, we planted these gardens. Everything you see in my program is grown out of the garden. And what I really wanted to show was not just the really beautiful landscapes we have in New Zealand, but also the fact that we are the premium food basket of the world, and we do have these extraordinary people, amazing experiences you can have, and more the tourism sector are looking, and they've realised that people want experiences, not just stuff. And also this idea of a more simple life, really. And I try and go down to Wanaka as much as I can just to actually reconnect, because that is one of the great things about New Zealanders, is our roots are very much tethered in the land, and we all love this country. This is why we're all here. Several people have said to me, gosh, you know, if you were doing this anywhere else in the world, you know, you'd have a GDP bigger than this country. So, earnings bigger than the GDP of this country. So, in a way, what New Zealanders are really good at, we're really good at hospitality. We're really good at welcoming people into our homes. You can meet a complete stranger even and say, come and have lunch, come and have dinner. And nobody else in the world does that. And these experiences are what I wanted to bring to life in The Free-Range Cook, show the resourcefulness of New Zealanders, show the sheer beauty and majesty of our country, and show how much fun we can have. So in order to get to this point, which, as I said, really does feel like it's just the beginning, I thought I'd take you back a little bit on my journey before I entered any kind of international forum. And in the, as Susan said, I published my first cookbook in the late 80s, and it was a collection of my listener recipes. And I sort of put this jigsaw puzzle together of making a book, and I was so excited. I just felt, I could feel, you know, wasn't even interested in sleeping. You know, the excitement of making a project that would feel whole in all sorts of ways. And I never even ever thought to involve a publisher. I'd had a very successful marketing company, marketing to a lot of people, companies, exporters, government, retailers in New Zealand. And as a sideline, I was writing and starting this publishing business. But when the first 10,000 copies turned up and they arrived in my garage, I thought, oh, Like, now what do I do? And that was the first point I realized that you could have the very best product in the world, but unless you had distribution and marketing sorted out, you can forget it. So over the years, I sort of worked out a really strong model around what it was to be involved in all parts of the, involved in the supply chain, involved in the value chain, and I really got to know my business well. And to the extent, I mean, I was a one-man band, I had a one-person band, I had a PA, I oversaw the design of the book, I styled the book, I often took the photos of the book, I wrote the recipes, I wrote the copy, I went up to press it in China, come back, sell it, you know. And for any of us, most of us here who have businesses, you know that the thing about businesses, actually, you know, you just have to keep going, and you always have to take that little extra step that will get you to the next bit. And often, you know, there are 18-hour days, and it seems that you're never going to get there, but if you're tenacious and have courage, you will. And so about this time, I started having a family, and my life was going really, really fast. I had this consultancy business and a publishing business, so I thought, well, I'd actually just, I really wanted to have a good life around a family and espouse the values that I believed in. So I divested myself of the consultancy company and moved my business home and started thinking about an idea that might be possibly an international idea. And I really wanted to build the values around things which were important to me, because as a busy working mother, you want to feel successful, and you want to feel that you're doing your job, and that you're feeding people food that's going to make them healthy, and that you can have fun doing, and you're not in the kitchen crying over a botched risotto while everyone else is out having a nice time in the dining room. So I really got, because of my love of gardening, I have always been very interested in, as my husband said, eat fresh food, not barcodes. So I started this project, and I really could feel, I've always been quite an instinctive person, I could really feel that it was in the right place. And I took it over to Australia to Murdoch Books, and I said, look, I've got this bit of an idea, in that way that New Zealanders always do you mind having a look at it? And they said, they looked at it and they said, actually, we think you've got a really good idea here. We could take it to Frankfurt and sell it for you. And I said, well, would you mind very much if I take it to Frankfurt? Because I'd really like to do that. They said, no, go for it. And that was, you know, that was a really nice thing, because they could have just said something. They were very supportive. So off I went to Frankfurt. I garnered my husband and a wonderful woman, Doris Mosdale, some of you might know. She's a marvellous woman. She used to be the buyer at Whitcoulls. She has her own very nice little bookshop in Newmarket called Arcadia Books. Dragged them over to Frankfurt, and I had the smallest stand that you could possibly get on the New Zealand stand, which was about a metre wide. I got to Frankfurt. There are 8 square miles of exhibition space. There are buses which take you from one pavilion to the next. And I lost all my confidence. I had the most enormous anxiety attack. I locked myself in the toilet for 3 hours. And I was almost in tears going, who do I think I am? What am I doing? And then, you know what? I just gave myself a jolly good talking to. And I thought, you haven't spent all this money and come all this way to be pathetic. Get out there, girl. So I came out of the bathroom, I got on the phone, and I phoned 4 of my old nannies who had come from places like Germany and Holland and Sweden and Denmark. And I said, I need you to do something for me today. Talk about, you know, running your market research on the back foot. And I said, you need to go, can you go today to bookshops for me? I want you to tell me, what are the names on the spines? Who's making the best looking books in Europe? And this name kept on coming up. So then I went and got a really good pair of trousers. Note to self, very important. And I put my head down, and I was sort of nose to the ground, and I could hear again the same name was coming up, that this was the company that was doing deals. So off I marched to the German stand, and the New Zealanders were saying, you are mad. You know, you can't even do a deal in the English language, let alone trying to get some, you know, foreign deal happening. And I thought, well, you know, look, I've got a few things on my side. I've got this very funny surname, Langbein, which means long legs. You know, I never got them. I married Hewitson, who's got the longest legs in history. So I figure, well, you know, I've got the name, but married the legs. And I knew I had a really good idea. So I finally found the stand, and it was everything I had always dreamed I wanted the New Zealand stand to be. It was beautiful wood panelling and lovely bar and softly lit, and it was absolutely buzzing with people, and people, you know, pouring nice glasses of wine. We're talking at about 11 o'clock in the morning. And very sort of a wonderful sense of energy and ideas and hospitality. And it's awfully hard for those of you who've been to Frankfurt to get an appointment with anyone of any importance. So I rocked up to the lady on the appointment stand. I said, is Ludwig Kerneman here, please? And she said, well, do you have a meeting? And I said, no, but I know he's going to want to see me. That was my first un-New Zealand thing to do. You know, normally what we do is we go and we say, I'm awfully sorry, I've got an idea here, which is probably going to make you $10 billion, but do you mind looking at it? So I said, no, I know he's going to want to see me. I've got an idea here that's going to make him a hell of a lot of money. So this tall guy came over with a big cigar, and he picked, of course, I've always run a wee bit late, right close to the wind, because the book was actually only in galleys at this stage. And he flicked through it, called two guys over. In the space of 30 seconds, he said to me, I'll take 500,000 copies world rights. And I, being really quite naive, I said, well, I don't really want to sell world rights. And he said, oh, that's the deal, off you go. So I had to go, you know, be turned away, carried on smoking a cigar, talking to his colleagues on this $1 billion deal. I went back to the New Zealand stand. I had to lie on the floor and be intravenously fed vodka and go, now what do I do? So then I thought about it really hard. And, you know, like New Zealand has been my market for a long time. People know me. They know the way that my books look. They know me in the supply chain. You know, I knew the retailers. I knew everybody in the business. And, you know, I had garnered a lot of support for kind of being this one-lady band. So on the Friday morning, I went back to see Ludwig Kerneman. And I just went straight up to him. I said, look, you know, I've got this tiny little market down the South Pacific, and, you know, it's really important to me, and everyone knows me, and I didn't even get very far. And he said to me, okay, well, you can have the English language. I'll take foreign rights, 300,000 copies. Poof! Signed that deal. You know, I was so excited. Money in the bank. Boy, this is fabulous. So the next year, I thought, this international publishing business is a bit of a lark, isn't it? Marvellous, you know. So then I went back the next year, and I'd always really believed in the Pacific and felt that it was a very undervalued culture. And I wanted to show people that actually there was this incredible sense of resourcefulness before we cargo culted it and filled up everybody's shelves with, you know, fatty foods and chippies and fizzy drink. And so I wrote this book, but before I wrote it, I actually got a very good photographer, Kieran Scott. I took him up to the Pacific, and I made this dummy, and I really developed the concept in my head, so it was a very strong concept. Went back to see Mr. Kerneman, and he had this extremely attractive, very tall, glamorous woman who followed him around and was looking somewhat harried by the stage with her order book. And he sat there, and the interesting thing about Ludwig Kerneman was I knew his model was flawed because his catalogue cost 10 euros to print. It was this big, because he had 50 food books and 50 architecture books, and they were beautiful books. I mean, I was really proud to be part of that. And he had an amazing distribution system, but he didn't have any marketing. But I thought, well, heck, who am I to query this? So he sat there for about literally half an hour, and he went backwards and forwards over these spreads, and he asked me a few questions. What was the next one in the series? And I said, Italy, you know, this new world, old world, and we'll build this whole series. And he said, I will take 1.2 million copies, world rights. Well, I wasn't quibbling about the English language at this point. I came back, I rang Wendy Pye, and I said to her, I have got this really big deal on the table, and I need a really good lawyer. And she said, she gave me the name of someone, and you know, that contract was the most important thing I ever did in my life, because about 9 months later, luckily, after I got the first 2 payments, which paid for me to take my kids on a sabbatical to Italy for 6 months to write the Italy book and finish the other book and get both books printed, Ludwig Kerneman went bankrupt for £450 million. Which is not an insubstantial amount of money. And he put the entire publishing industry and printing industry in Europe into complete disarray for about 2 years. And luckily, because I had this really good contract, I've always owned my IP, I only license my IP, the television series, we own all that, we own everything, and that way we can parlay it as we want to in different markets and cut and dice it and do things with it. So it took me about a year to get my rights back, but then what did I have to do? You know, you sort of go door knocking to the Dutch and the Swedish and the Danes and all these people who've actually done your book through Kerneman, who they never really liked anyway because he was such a maverick. And they go, who are you? Like, why would we want to buy a book from you? It might look beautiful, but we don't know you and you're not in our market, and what relevance do you have to us? So I managed to sort of get some of these people on board to do print runs with me and work with me, but we're talking 2,000 copies, 3,000 copies, 4,000 copies. You know, there was no, it was hand to mouth really, and it was really hard work. But I knew I had something, because I knew that what I was interested in, the idea that I was interested in, was actually connecting people and empowering people and making people feel really confident. My sort of mantra was, I'll make you a star in the kitchen, you're going to have fun, you can do it. And I knew that that had relevance in my own home market. And kind of what I'd wanted to do when I took that time off while I started having a family was I'd always looked at companies that would come to New Zealand and model their businesses here, because it was a small market where they could actually look at how things worked. So whether it was a tyre company or a technology company, they had a market that they could actually look at. And I thought, well, I've got this market really pretty well sussed, so why don't I roll it out the other way? So, you know, I knew that I still had this idea, but I knew there are 24,000 cookbooks published a year, so what do I do now? And so then I thought YouTube had just started. And it was a Monday night, and my kids were having exams at school, and I had all this eggplant everywhere. It was probably about, you know, April. And I thought, oh, I wonder if there's a recipe on YouTube for eggplant. So I went on YouTube, and it's still there, the clip, so if you want to go and have a look, this is very funny. It's called Victoria's Secret Eggplant Frittata. I'll have a look at that one. And it was a 10-minute long video of this tiny little wee woman in Queens, and she sort of looked like a sort of stunned rabbit in the camera lights, and the whole thing was just terrible to begin with. And then she got into her little itty-bitty kitchen in Queens, and she pulled out this knife, and she just dealt to this eggplant like you have no idea. I thought, oh, this lady knows a bit about eggplants and cooking. Well, turned the video off, went into the kitchen. At 9:30, there was a mutiny in my house. And everyone said, when are we ever having dinner? The kitchen looked like a complete bomb. You have no idea. And I produced quite possibly the most disgusting, revolting tasting thing known to mankind. And I was really cross. And it was sort of an epiphany, because I thought, you know what? I can do that much better than that lady. So I think I was the first person in the world to create an interactive book. And what I did was I thought really hard about a sponsorship model where I could front-end load the costs and then not worry really about making a profit, because it was about brand building, and then be able to deliver a product into the market by way of an interstitial, which is a small clip. So I made these little video clips with the sponsors on board, and then I was able to distribute them. So I put them up on YouTube, and they went on to Food TV, and they went on a couple of other channels offshore, and a couple of them went viral in different ways. And I thought, oh, this is exciting. I could see that I could change the sponsor model in different countries, you see, roll it out that way. And then one day, I got a phone call, and it was this executive from Fremantle Media. And for those of you who don't know Fremantle Media, they're probably the biggest media company in the world. They're owned by Bertelsmanns. They do things like Idol and Jamie Oliver and really big shows. And this guy said to me, we've just seen your clips on YouTube, and we think you've got something really exciting. Can you come and meet with us? And I said, yeah, sure. And they said, well, we'll be in Cannes next week. Can you come? Yes, new pair of trousers, off. And I went to Cannes, and I thought, this is really exciting. They were interested in my interstitial concept, and it was a new idea. And we sat down and had this lunch, which was actually probably another one of those really bad meals at one of those terribly, terribly expensive restaurants in Cannes. And they said, no, we're not even interested in the interstitial model. We want you to be a star. And I said, oh, what does that mean? And they said, well, we think that we could build you as a really big brand. You come from a really beautiful country. You've got so many things that you can layer in here. We wouldn't be talking to you if you came from Holland or Poland. You come from somewhere with a whole set of values that the world's interested in. You're really good at showing people how simple it is to cook really well. You're really connected and on trend with all these values that people are interested in about connecting. So I said, well, what does that mean? And they said, well, if you can come away and really clearly define your brand to us and really put some time and effort into that, and we're happy with that, we'll give you some money for a pilot. And then if that works, we'll back you for a TV series, which costs over $1 million. So, you know, that was pretty nice to hear that. So then I thought, okay, well, I better find out about my brand, because I have always been my brand. So I was very lucky, and I got a grant from the New Zealand Trade and Enterprise, and I took that money and I went to America. And I thought, you know, really, what you don't know is what will trip you up. You don't know what you don't know. So the most important thing for me was to figure out what I needed to know. And I hired a woman which was probably the most jaw-droppingly expensive thing that ever happened to my life. I was sort of counting every second I was in her company. But she had set up the Food Network, and she was a very, very, very clever woman. She helped me think about the way that I might want to structure my deal with Fremantle and how I could license that and how I could retain all my IP and all the different things I needed to think about that. She also helped me think about my brand and what was my brand going to need to be to have relevance, and especially the American market, but globally, because actually if you don't have relevance, why are you there? You know, you have to be relevant to people. They have to want and need you. You can't just broadcast out. So I came home, I did some work on that. I evolved an idea around a free-range cook, which has evolved subsequently to a free-range life. I've been very lucky to build a team around me. Christine Arden, who's here with me today as our general manager, has come from a fantastic branding background and licensing background. And you know, this proposition we have is really, as I said, it's about a philosophy of connecting people and empowering people so that they can feel that they belong and are part of, whether it's their community or their family or their environment or nature or their own creativity. And to a large extent for me, this was driven by the life that I grew up in and my own family, because you know, when I grew up, you didn't need money to have a good life. And my father was, had a big city job in Wellington. And he would come home from work and take his suit off, and he'd put either his bee suit on or his gardening clothes on. And I think we were the only family in Karori at that time. He was ahead of his time to have 3 beehives. And I'm also very proud now to be the ambassador of the National Bee Association, because bees are in trouble. He would grow these beautiful vegetables, and my mother had a university degree, and she chose to stay home and make us lovely food and make a lovely life for us at home, which of course, being a budding feminist, I railed against. But you know, and I really see the value in that nourishing upbringing that I had, that was about experiences and about having a good life. And I think, like all of you, I so believe in this country, and I'm really excited that I can, if I can in my work, I can take all of us with me as I go forward out into the world, because those values that we have are things that we really need to think about and be. NZ Inc. is such an important part for all of us when we go out into the world, because we take that with us when we go, and I think we can take it with absolute pride, because you know, we all travel a lot. Why do we come home? Because of the people that live here, because of the environment that we live in, and because we actually believe in this country. So on that basis, I know I've got a little bit more time. I thought I might just go through with you some of the learnings that I've taken on this journey. And really, for me particularly, because I'm not in manufacturing, even though I manufacture books, you know, your brand is your business. Everything about what you do has to be about brands. More and more people are, as the world gets more and more cluttered, it's about brands. And that comes back to NZ Inc. as a brand too. And you know, you have to have authenticity. It has to be true. And that's why, you know, people, when they see that TV series, they can't believe that is my life, you know, but that is my life. And I go down there, and every time I go down there, it helps me to rethink and make sure that I can be true to the brand and have that authenticity. And you know, it's certainly not a one-off cost. It's just an ongoing investment. And over these last few days while I've been on the road and I've had the chance to work with these fantastic other people or speak with these other fantastic people, a very interesting concept that was proposed by one of the speakers, who's a marvellous woman, and I've written everyone's name down here because we had so many. We had Bill Buckley and we had Doug and anyway, it's an idea of disobedient thinking. Because as New Zealanders, and this is what your brand is about really to some extent, because you can't just go, yes, you will go to a brand specialist or a brand advisor and they'll suggest all these things. You have to challenge them and say, why? Why are we doing that? Why? And that is part of our number 8 why mentality, because that why, that challenge is often what will produce the next step and the next level of engagement. So, if you think about what your engagement strategy is, what your marketing channels are, and then you have to invest the necessary time and money to get there. And you know, people often say to me, what do you do? And I say, well, my husband and I, you know what we do? We're investors. You just double down, you double down, you double down, you double down, because you have to, you actually have to. If you're going to make a difference, you really have to It's never just going to happen. It doesn't come to you. You just have to keep on forging ahead, obviously with a plan, but and a vision, very much a vision. But it needs to be about engagement. It isn't that one-way broadcast. It's about engagement, and more, it's about the idea of actually people wanting to come to you and participate. And, you know, there's a saying by a guy, Nicholas Graham, who says, the brand is the amusement park and the product is the souvenir. And I do think that is what we're starting to achieve with our brand, because people take away from the experience. They want the book or the recipe or everything, but the experience of the brand is what they really want. And as an example of how I think that we've started to make some traction here, on our Facebook page, which we really invest a heck of a lot in social media and on our website. I've had this lovely email from this woman recently that said, "Hi Annabel, I just want you to know that you inspire me to cook healthy, great and honest food. I love you and your books. Thank you. We named our little baby after you. She's 4 months old now, and her name is Annabel." And I went, well, you know, that has to make me feel nice. It's really lucky. And, you know, coming back to this idea, which is the next thing, which is really about focus. You know, focus is everything. And, you know, we've got our television series in 84 countries now. You know, I've got my books in Polish and all these things. I can't be in all those markets. And also, those of you who understand about publishing at the moment, it's a really, really in a very complex place that hasn't worked out where it's going to go in terms of all this e-publishing, where books are going to go, all these things. And so what we decided to do was that we would focus on 2 markets and try and work out a new model in those markets. So we have focused really hard on the Netherlands because they are early adopters and because we have a really a publisher there that is really interested in us, and it is going to all be about relationships. And they came to us and wanted to work with us to make new books. We said, you know what, we really want to work with you, but we don't want to do it the old way. It's not going to work. You know, you could put your book on the shelf, you can put it on your list. It's like putting it in a car park. Unless you drive that forward and you make that happen, it isn't going to happen. And what we were able to prove in New Zealand, which was for me personally one of the most exciting things in my life, because even though I'm a creative, I love the idea of making an idea work. When we produced the first free-range cook series, we lined all our dots up. We joined all the dots. So we got a show that we managed to produce to a high enough production value that we got prime time on a Saturday night. We made a book that, you know, most other people would get to one point and go, I've spent enough money now, I don't need to spend any more. We just took another big step and said, well, how much more money do we need to spend here to make this book that everybody wants? We put together a really, really comprehensive PR and marketing strategy so that everybody knew about the book, and it was like a perfect storm. And we did a very, successful, worked with different retailers. This was our first book, The Free Range Cook. We sold 160,000 copies in New Zealand of a $60 book. It was kind of unheard of. It beat every record in history more than Harry Potter or anyone. And really what it was about having relevance and having all those dots join up. And I think that was, for me, where I really valued and came to value the importance of a team and having different people on your team who have different skills and specialties that you all come together, you all talk together, communication all the time, going, what if, what do we need to do? What do we need to do to make that happen? And, you know, heaven forbid that I'm ever going to be running behind the 8 ball like I was 10 and 15 years ago, where I'm doing my market research, sort of bringing up nannies and having books not ready. Because the market, if you're going to do it, you've got to do it and be the very best you can. You know, it's all very well to say, yes, we're going to have a go, but actually it isn't about just having a go, it's having a go to be the best you can. And, you know, your IP is probably, especially in any of our businesses, but your IP is incredibly valuable, and take very, very great care of it. It is the most important thing that you've got. You know, creativity and IP are increasingly the drivers of business today. And if you can identify what's worth protecting, whether getting it with legal advice or trademarking or patenting or securing domain names, all those things, you know, it's most important to work out what it is, but also in the clutter. I mean, luckily, because I've got someone like Christine, you know, I must own, I don't know how many domain names. It's like, I'll wake up and I'm like, oh my God, that's a good idea. And then she'll say, oh, I think there's probably about 2,000 domain names here. Do you think we really need them all? It's like, I don't really need to spend all that money. So it's that focus again and commitment. And I think one of the things about this, you know, I'm constantly in market traveling, all about building those relationships, and whether they're relationships that you're building with the bank or whether they're relationships that you're building with your trading partners, you have to say, I'm going to deliver and I'm going to over-deliver so that they can have confidence in you over and above all those other people out there that are competing against you. And I think lastly, the most important thing that I think is to back yourself and be brave. You know, no one else is going to back you. I mean, I'm really lucky because I've got an incredibly supportive husband who now works with me in the business as a director, and on some of the side that I'm not really interested in, he's really good at. I've got a team there, and I've got the most fantastic kids. And when we started the first TV series, we knew we needed to sit at the top table, so we needed to put a lot of money on the table as well. And I remember sitting with our kids having dinner one night, and we said, look, hey guys, I'm up for this really big idea, but you know, and we're going to do it the best we can and try and be the best we can be, but we don't know if it's going to work. And if it doesn't work, no, we're not going to lose the house, but actually, you know, you won't be going on fancy pants holidays for quite some time. And you know what was so good? They said, go mum, we really believe in you, that's fantastic. And I think having that support in your life is so important, but you have to have the vision, and you have to have that idea, and if you've got the vision and you can see it, I truly believe you can make it happen. So go do it, everyone. Thank you for having me today.